My name is Stephanie Kloos. I am the Director of Fitness and Member Services in the Zessinger Center for the Recreational Sports Program. So what that means is I deal with pretty much anything that goes on in the Z Center. Folding massage linens, managing staff, facilities, programs, events, dodgeball tournaments, pretty much anything. So myself and Ruthie from the mediation office came up with this workshop in the fall. Ruthie just left to work at Harvard, so I'm doing this on my own. I had a couple of you guys already work on this, but if you could fill out a conflict that has arose in a program or a lab group, roommates, anybody that you live with, and then at the end, we'll try to see if any of the things we learned we'll be able to solve, or at least come up with ways to prevent conflict from happening. So, this is my introduction, and you guys are writing down those conflicts. So what I've found to work really well, I was telling a few of you guys, I manage 2 groups of staff, full-time salaried staff, a group of 5 and then a group of 9. And pretty much every 6 months we do this activity, and it's called our assumptions and expectations. Basically, this is something that is good for you when you're starting a group to come up and agree on. So it can be very obvious information, such as, I expect everyone to be approachable. I expect everyone to meet timelines. I expect everyone to be on time, show up for meetings. It can be that kind of specific and almost elementary information, but it's something that you guys all decide on and agree upon. So I was hoping we could maybe brainstorm some of those together. I can give you an example. And this is, I keep this in my folder. It's my member services team group. And our assumptions and expectations are, I expect to be treated fairly and with respect. I expect constructive criticism immediately. I assume everyone on the team is approachable. I expect everyone to stay positive and have fun, and I expect teamwork. So those are kind of our expectations and assumptions going into every meeting, every interaction. So it's something that we are all agreed on. So has anyone done this with a group before? Yeah.
One thing that I do is I expect everyone to come out true with their ambition on why they're involved in whatever they are.
Clear purpose.
Yeah.
What else?
I kind of like the constructive criticism one you mentioned of giving people feedback.
Mm-hmm. Immediate feedback.
Just internalizing things and letting them develop in the process.
It's hard to say to someone, last month this happened, because if it happens again, it's easier to say yesterday I really noticed and this affected my work because now I'm behind by 24 hours, when around here that can be a big deal. So you want to make sure that immediate feedback, because then it'll start evolving into everyone's treating each other that way. Yeah.
So what happens if someone disagrees? Because there are times where some people like to have the feedback at the end of the week, for example.
Exactly.
Instead of it affecting them the rest of the week. So like how maybe walk us through what happens.
So this is a great example of making sure that in your assumptions and expectations you outline what happens when these aren't met. And when you're deciding on this, maybe I know that Stephen expects me to email him on Fridays. And that's just something that you can even add in here. Stephen, project leader, wants to be contacted on Fridays. Then everyone knows that. Everyone has that information. And then you should also define what happens if the goals aren't met. What happens if I don't get immediate feedback? As the leader, you should come up with what that might be. So it could be, it's an email, it's a phone call, it's a reevaluation of the timeline. So whatever that might be. It's always good to have the consequences to not meeting those expectations clearly defined. And sometimes in these informal groups, it might be awkward to bring this up initially because it is an informal group, but it really helps with the success and puts everybody on the same page. Anybody think of anything else?
Can you define like consequences a little bit more? So
Mm-hmm.
if I don't get immediate feedback and then like
So it could, I mean, you could decide it however you want to. We often talk about it in our team meetings, and I have just a section on team feedback. So that could be the way that I bring it up in our group. So I noticed this week, Stephen, that you didn't immediately bring something up. You brought it up a month, something that came up a month ago. The team decided that we would do this. Can you please do that in the future? So maybe it's in the team format. Maybe it's one-on-one. Maybe it's initially through an email, depending on what kind of communication style you have, too. Or maybe it's, if there's a leader of the group, maybe you take it to the leader and they circle back and talk to that person. So in my job, there's the chain of command. So, I ask that everyone's very open with each other. It's very collaborative. So they don't have to take everything to me. I like to be kept informed, but I don't have to, every conversation that happens doesn't have to come from the top down.
I agree that feedback is very important, but sometimes even if you give that person feedback, he does not accept it. He listens to it, but he does not make anything about the improvements. So how to make sure?
That's a conversation you should have initially. So in the team, talking about that might happen. If that person's sitting in that room and they're listening to that conversation and they're agreeing to be part of that group and agreeing to that, basically your ground rules, then you can bring that up. We agreed that you would follow up on this weekly or, whatever the timeline is. So that's why it's important to define them before things happen so you can prevent the conflict from building up. And if it doesn't, sometimes, people don't change after someone gives them that feedback. I think it's important to engage the group then. It's affecting our work. Give the purpose. Try to stay away from making, unless it is something emotional, but keeping the emotion out of it.
Should you approach it individually first, and then if it doesn't work, so you should open it to group?
Yeah, that's really all depends on what your group decides. If your group says bring it to the team and talk about it here, great. Or I'd rather be approached one-on-one. Those are great examples of things that do happen all the time. So it's something that you should talk about, like those specific, like feedback, following a timeline, communication. Those are all things that should be here. Like I expect to get, weekly project evaluation follow-up just to know where we are in a project, if that's what the team leader and the team decides.
I feel like if it's a working group, everything serious is fine, but a lot of times when working on the student project, they are not that serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like just wasting time setting up all the ground rules and expect everyone to agree.
I think, definitely as the team facilitator, it's important, 20 minutes. Just have the conversations because I bet there's a lot of assumptions in the room because we all come from different programs, just our communication styles are so different. But I think to set up yourselves for success as a group and just being able to interact and meet goals and meet expectations, it's important to get all those assumptions out. Because you've probably been in 20 different groups in the last 2 years, and they all work differently. But now if you're focusing on that group, you want to make sure that it's successful. So another, I've used this with my team as well. It's just the ropes. So you basically write down what your ground rules are. So R could be respectful. resilient. Come up with the list that you want to as a group, but keep that with you keep it on your meeting agenda at the bottom. These are our values. This is what we considered this group and this team to be managed by. If you guys want to give me some examples of ways we can set ground rules with ropes. Respectful. I gave you that one. Any others? Can cheat.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So, in comparison to the assumptions and expectations, are those more technical and ground rules that are more to do with behavior? Is that?
Yeah. Yes. This is like you come into every meeting with this on your mind. Being responsive, respectful, open, whatever you come up with. And it can be 10 different things, but it's something that, like I said, you could put at the bottom of all of your agendas. If it's a group that needs constant follow-up with action items, so they come with work completed for the next meeting, make sure that's something here. Anybody have any other R's?
If you want to help keep people on task, you can say results oriented.
Yes. I should also add, I just finished grad school, so I just got my diploma in the mail. Lots of group projects. Open.
On time.
Yes.
Organized.
P. What did I do for our group? Yep. One thing we have at the rec center, people come in and they're like, oh, you're gym rats. But we do have to be professional. We know our art, and it's a lot of times my dad thought I majored in vacation. But so I always say, you guys got to be professional all the time. So that's something that I think is really important for everybody to we have fun, but you have to be professional. E. Mm-hmm. Empathetic.
I guess when you're energetic, you keep
Mm-hmm.
getting motivated out.
Yep. Anything for S? Stellar? Yeah. This one, Ruthie came up with a good one for S. Certain people need to step down sometimes and let other people have the floor, and certain people need to step up. So stepping up, stepping down. I have no idea. Ruthie started this exercise, and it just ends up being a great acronym using, hitting a lot of the important things.
Supposed to be like know the ropes.
We'll use that. Know the ropes. Seems like a pretty comprehensive list. Some other ones. Positive, supportive, on task, on time. We talked about that. Optimism, having perspective, being reliable, being responsive, or some other ones that we used as one of my teams. So I also want to talk about active listening, because a lot of times meeting all of these, you have to step back and listen to each other, and that means practicing skills that we all have but probably don't always practice. So I thought it'd be good to just brainstorm as a group some of those active listening skills that we use every day. So I'll start. The eye contact. If I'm talking to you right now and we're both looking around, not really paying attention, you can feel how you're not listening to each other, and that throws the person off, can't focus, lose your train of thought. So that's a good one. Anything else?
Repeat or confirm something that the other person said.
What else? Mm-hmm. Kind of along the lines of eye contact, just body language, kind of shaking your head, like affirming, oh, I understand what you're talking about.
There's something called a sandwich method, and it kind of relates to this.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to kind of keep the momentum up, and if you want to refute, then you give a positive point, then you throw in a negative, and then kind of positive.
I like it. I think if there's anything we're missing.
Maybe taking notes on what people say.
Yep. Yeah, not interrupting. Good. So I wanted to do just a quick activity. So if you guys can break off into pairs. I think we have 2, 4. I'll go with you in the back. So if you want to break off into pairs, the topic is one person's going to be the listener, one person's going to be the talker. The first time, the talker is just going to talk about your name, your program at MIT, classes you're taking, responsibilities that you have right now. And the first listener is going to use all of these skills that we talked about. So try to think about all of these things that we talked about. And then we're going to switch. So that's your first task. So pair up. All right, so let's debrief a little bit. Listeners, segment 2, how did you feel?
Segment 2.
So that we're, the second part, the second 2. Was it hard to, as the talker, how did it feel? You're just babbling, kind of lose your train of thought. You get mad. I yawned in the back. She got mad. She came out of character and was like, "Am I boring you?" So you kind of just shut down. your sentences are shorter. They don't always make sense. You might stutter. So it is the subtle messages that you give off when you're listening to someone that really can make or break the conversation. So just keep that in mind. I think it's also, we were at the kind of crazy end of the spectrum on both sides. We were very, very engaged, and it's almost overwhelming as the talker, but, toning it down and just really paying attention, especially in group meetings at the end of a long day. It can definitely be difficult, but you expect the same from the other person. So, next thing on our agenda. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. What's your name?
Todd.
Todd and?
Nana.
Nana. I'm going to give you the orange. I need a third person. What's your name? Maria. Can you come up here? You can sit here. I'll pull this. So Todd and Maria both want this orange. Okay? And we're going to talk about positions and interests and how different people may want the same thing, but for different reasons. Okay? So go ahead and read this. Okay? And you're going to read this section right here.
Billy?
Yep. Billy/Todd. Okay. So you have like 15 seconds to make the decision on who you're going to give this orange to. Okay? So Todd is going to tell you why, and you have about 10 seconds to tell her why.
You don't want me to tell her why. I can only respond, right?
Right, sorry. Okay, so you ask them why they want the orange. Sorry.
Why do you want the orange?
I'm hungry.
Why do you want the orange?
I need it for a very important project,
What kind of project?
a school project.
What are you going to do with an orange?
It doesn't matter, but I need the orange.
Here you go.
Yeah. Okay. So this time you actually have time to ask more questions. You guys can give a little bit more information. Tell her specifically what you're going to do with it, and then you can make the decision on who's going to get the orange. And action.
Why do you want the orange?
I'm doing a school project.
Okay, that's interesting. What are you going to do with an orange?
What I'm doing is investigating something, but I need to get the entire field together.
So you just need the peel?
Yeah.
What do you want?
I'm going to eat it.
So how about, you want to eat the peel?
No, Billy, no.
Okay, so you just want the thing inside it, right?
Yeah.
Then how about you eat it and then you take off the peel and give it to her?
That sounds like a great plan. So,
So I'll give it to you first and then eat it and then just remember to give the peel to me.
Alright, sounds good.
they each had, once you gave them time, they were able to explain thoroughly why they wanted the peel and to eat it because he was hungry. So just, tying everything back together is actively listening, being clear and open to other people, being persistent. Both of you were persistent, but you were patient in the second one, so you were able to really listen. Energetic. What else? And everybody was respectful in the second section. So thank you guys. Good job. Billy, Susie, decision maker. I will take my snack for tomorrow. So does everybody have their cards that I can grab with their conflicts on it? Okay. Let me just look at these. oh, this is, okay, I don't know who this is, and you don't have to disclose that. But this is a funny, I'll read it. Constant frustration with a teammate for a month-long school project. We both have strong personalities, but often differing views. Given we were working and living together for a month, it was difficult to resolve the tension. Since we have been back to school, things are better, and I would like to learn how to resolve the remaining tension we had during the project. I live with one of my staff members, which I got promoted and whatever, we're on a lease, she's my friend, but I have this happen sometimes. The difference is we both don't have strong personalities. I more do, she just doesn't. But I think the biggest thing, well, does anybody have ideas on how this person could resolve this? We'd like to learn more about how to resolve the remaining tension. I would suggest laying it out on the table, over lunch, over coffee, during this month-long project. I know we struggled a lot coming up with progress, and it was tension at home, it was tension in school, but I'd like to move on. I value you as a friend. I value you as a teammate, and I think that we need to discuss this before we can, our friendship can continue, or we can really get through this without continually having it in the back of our minds. Move forward. That would be my suggestion. Anybody else? So being open, being respectful, being clear about, how it affected you, and then how you can prevent it in the future. You can always come to me. If there's a problem, we can always have this open lines of communication. I work better if you call me if there's a problem rather than an email. I feel like people now can drop anything in an email, but if you pick up the phone or you're having a face-to-face conversation, it might be a little bit different. Let's see here. So this is a good one. Conflict among committee members as to roles and responsibilities, trouble reaching a united vision and goal. So I think, coming up with everything together and how you're going to do that, maybe being a little bit more explicit about the strategies you're going to use to reach your goal and the timeline associated with it, and who is going to be responsible for what. So we're implementing a huge software change in the recreation program right now, and I've been working on this for 2 years, and right now we're building the site and the configuration of everything. So it's a lot of, security office, merchant services, a lot of people are involved. So we have very specific roles and responsibilities. So just being clear about how you're going to get there, who's involved, and then following up with action items. Okay? Yeah.
Worry because the time constraint, there are only 1 hour to lay out the ground rules, and there's no leader in this group, and everyone conflict with each other. So waiting about hours.
I think in that situation, one person has to take a leadership role and just say, I'm going to at least help facilitate the conversations. We can all recognize it isn't successful the way it is.
What if one person thinks it's not necessary to have a leader?
I think it's important to just voice the concern. If it's evident that it's not going well, I think most of the team will recognize that, and you'll be able to convince the person who, and not in a negative way, just, we're all in this together. We're all in this to reach this goal. We have to complete this project quickly. I think it would be most beneficial if we had someone that facilitated the meetings, kept the minutes, followed up on the action items, and, we'll come full circle and finish and be able to celebrate.
What if everyone has a dominant personality and is not willing to let one person
I would set the example. If you're also that dominant personality, step back, step down. And if it's that crazy, I mean, like, say, you know what? There's a lot of us in here that want to take the reins. I'm going to step down. You know, I'm definitely going to voice my opinion, but I think we all need to just be respectful of each other's. I think to facilitate and move things forward, there has to be someone that keeps the organization of the group, but doesn't necessarily push what they want forward every single time. So I lead these two teams, but it's very, you know, I would bring, okay, this came from the top. This is a problem. We need to talk about the day pass system. What's going on out there? You know, whatever that topic may be. You know, I think it's bringing it forward and communicating both ways in my situation. And a lot of times, you know, people feel like they can come to me, well, I want this to be on the agenda. Can we talk about this? Yes. So it's a very collaborative way of thinking. Let's see here. Do one more. That one we already kind of talked about. This is hard. So my team member and I work on a project for a bank. He's very good technical skills, but very stubborn in his approach to deal with the problem. Although I think his approach is not practical enough. His approach is not practical enough, but I can't proceed without his help, and he is not listening to me, thinking I probably am not smart enough. This is the same thing going on with the software transition. I need these technical people to help me, and whenever I, you know, want to approach something differently, sometimes my voice isn't heard because I majored in vacation. So I've gone to like the next level, basically. Like my manager, like my voice isn't being heard. I think I'm onto something good here. You know, this project isn't moving forward. I need someone to step in and support me. And boom, you know, it helped. It worked. So maybe it's a third party. Maybe it's, you know, someone else in the group. But that's an approach that has worked for me. All right. Any other topics anybody really wants to get off their chest? All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I have just a little assessment form. If you can just fill it out, that would be great. Come see me at the Z Center. I'm by the massage room.